Map reading at the Ohio Supreme Court, and get ready to bet on the Buckeyes legally. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Anna Staver, State House reporter for the Columbus Dispatch, Sam Gresham of Common Cause Ohio, and Gene Krebs, former state legislator. Ohio's imaginatively drawn state legislative districts are now in the hands of the Ohio Supreme Court. The state's top justices heard nearly 90 minutes of arguments about the fairness of Ohio's new maps of the state Senate and state House districts. These are the maps that give Republicans a supermajority in the legislature, even though Ohio is fairly evenly divided politically. And the new constitutional amendment says lawmakers should not draw maps that create an overt partisan advantage. Democrats and voter rights groups say the maps are unconstitutional. Republican leaders disagree. They say they meet the requirements of the law. The issue could come down to Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor, a swing vote on the court, and she seemed dubious.
My concern or question is you have the voting tallies, and for the statewide office holders, it comes up to 5446. Is that, you understand?
That's if you look at votes cast.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The Constitution uses the term election results.
Okay.
That could mean votes cast.
Sam Gresham, Common Cause, the group you're with, strenuously opposes these maps and is hoping for a reversal. Were you encouraged by the Chief Justice's concern or question?
Yes, I was, Mike. I think our approach is the proper approach. They're talking about all elections over a longer period of time, and they're talking about an 81% for Republicans and the remaining balance for 5481. What we're talking about is a 46-54, which is much more equitable. And I like what Ms. O'Connor raised the question. She landed on our formula, not their formula. And their formula was so skewed that the numbers don't really represent how Democrats and Republicans are. 81% Republican, no, that's not the way it is.
Yeah,
so we think we're going to get a good result from the Supreme Court. Now, you must remember, the Supreme Court cannot make them change the map.
Yep.
They can't. But they can critique elements on how they put the map together.
The attorney for the state legislative leaders, who you saw there, is saying that they measured the state's political leanings by looking at statewide elections over the past 10 years. And among those of statewide office holders, the Republicans won 81% of those. So they actually say that their map is more bipartisan than it needs to be. Gene Krebs, you had a front row seat on this when you were a lawmaker, I'm guessing. What do you think of this case, and is there a chance that they reject these maps, the Supreme Court rejects these maps?
I think the odds are very high they will reject the maps. And when I look at what happened to counties, it's a very concrete case of the counties, I believe, were split too much, not following. If everyone wants to look it up, it's 1902, B4, 5, and 8. And I read those just again today, and I'm going, But I think what this really calls for is that, I know, Sam, your group was very active in getting this through, but when that happened, a whole lot of us in the, wise, old, we've been around a long time crowd, we're going, this thing has too many loopholes and is not tied down well enough. And I hope that your groups is taking notes on how to go ahead and firm this up.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment. But Anna, what happens if the Supreme Court rejects these maps? What happens next?
Well, that was one of the questions that Chief Justice O'Connor actually had. She said, do you just redraw it? And I think there's a sense of, the court has a real sense of the potential harm of extended delays, especially as we get closer and closer to the filing deadline. So they can be specific. So they can't say, like, do this or do that, but they can say, hey, the way you cut up Hamilton County, that's not all right. You need to change this. Or what you did over here in Summit County, like, you need to go back there. So they can get specific in their directions to lawmakers, even though they can't explicitly direct them to make specific changes.
Can they say you have to have a formula that gives 54% of the seats, in theory, to Republicans and 46% to Democrats? Can they be that specific? Can they say use this measurement?
I think they can indicate a preference for such a division. I'm not sure whether they can go as far as to say it has to be that way. And I also think they can set a deadline. They can say we want a new map by X date. And I think that's going to be really important, especially as we move into January to February. We're supposed to have a primary in May, and I think the last thing we want to do is have to delay it.
Yeah, Sam Gresham in North Carolina, they are still considering, the Supreme Court down there is still considering those maps, but this week they did delay their primary because it was going to be in, I think, March, so they delayed it till May, so it's earlier than ours, but they did delay it down there. Should they delay it? Should timing matter, or should they take their time and get it right?
I think they need to take their time and get it right. And I think the points that were made just then is correct. The Supreme Court can lend its word to its preference on how the lines are drawn. Gene made some points, too, that are important. They split too many counties. So they can say things like that. Don't split these counties to the degree that you have. And this is the base number we're looking for. And then they have to make their map according to that. So we are anticipating it, and we're very happy with our process, Gene, I understand. But during the negotiations, they didn't want an independent commission. So we had to come up with something that put them in a box, but it wasn't a box. And they didn't realize it was a box until now.
Well, on that note, Sam, no matter what happens with this case, this hasn't worked out as probably you had hoped and other groups had hoped. Will you go back to the ballot before the next redistricting and census comes out in 10 years from now?
Well, it hasn't worked out to the degree that we wanted it to. But, Mike, it has played out exactly the way we thought it was going to play out. I would be honest with you. We didn't think they were going to follow the rules. We didn't think they were going to meet the deadlines. We didn't think they were going to give us a balanced map. We thought they were going to give themselves a supermajority. As has been said, they are who we thought they were. But what they haven't figured out is every 36 months, we'll be back into this thing for the next map, and that's during an election. So, I don't think they want to do this continually. I call it the groundhog scenario, and that's part of the box. That's part of our trap.
That's because they couldn't get bipartisan support for these maps, both this map and the congressional map. Then the map only lasts 4 years instead of the regular 10 years, as legislative maps usually last the full decade until the next census. Our next topic: Ohio casinos and racinos have brought in a record $2.1 billion this year. And that doesn't count all the money that Ohioans have bet on sports. That's because, of course, sports betting remains illegal in Ohio, but not for much longer. Like a gambler rushing to the betting window with a hot tip on a horse, Ohio lawmakers quickly passed a sports betting bill this week. Governor DeWine says he will sign it. It would allow for, we'll call them 25 big licenses, likely held by casinos and sports franchises, that could also include online betting. The law would also allow for smaller licenses at certain bars and restaurants. The state would collect 10% of the sports betting profits to spend on schools and gambling prevention, and there's even some money for veterans services. Gene Krebs, you left the legislature about 20 years ago. Can you imagine the legislature, a supermajority of Republicans voting overwhelmingly to legalize sports betting in Ohio?
And with that statement, you're raising the question as to why. I have a very good source who is very familiar with the internal workings of the Justice Department. And this source has informed me that the Justice Department has been taking a look at the sports gambling legislation here for many, many months, looking at it with an eye on a la House Bill 6 type of influence peddling again. And I've also been hearing this rumor consistently on the street as I talk to folks in downtown Columbus. I'm hearing the exact same thing, that this thing has been touched. Whether or not that's true or not, whether or not this is hyperbole put out there, I have no idea. But if it is, we're going to see things slowly emerge.
Anna Staver, one of the things that this bill does not do, it doesn't really create a monopoly like the casino amendment did. It does spread the wealth out a little bit in that casinos will get gambling operations, sports franchises will get gambling operations, sports betting operations, and also smaller places, bowling alleys, bars, restaurants, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it created 3 different types of licenses. They just call them type A, type B, type C. And so each one is a different set. But the most important ones, practically speaking, are the type A's that are going to go to the casinos, the racinos, the sports teams, because these are the ones that have what's called a skin. And that just means it's the digital app, it's the website, it's the way most people are probably going to bet on these games. And so that will be only for the type A licenses. So like the type C at the bowling alley will be like a kiosk that allows you to make simple bets on, say, the over under or the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And the restaurants really wanted that part of the action to help with their business and didn't want to give it all to just the casinos.
Yeah, Jay Edwards, who chaired the conference committee on this bill, said that this was a real thing that we could do for bars and restaurants who've had a tough, 2 years now almost. Yeah.
They've been talking about it since 2018 when the U.S. Supreme Court legalized sports betting in every state except for Nevada. Sam Gresham, the casinos have been here a while now. The world hasn't ended. Is this a big deal? Are we going to see a huge change in the state that we can now legally bet on the Bengals?
Well, to deal with your first question, gambling is replete with corruption, and that's usually organized crimes or corporations trying to get an advantage. I would not be surprised that in the final analysis, something like that falls out here. The only aspect of the gambling that I think the people in the state of Ohio, and I wasn't clear, can they bet on Ohio State?
Yes.
They can bet on Ohio State? If that is, that's a problem. Kids can make money off court, but you're creating a situation where people can now bet on games and hopefully manipulate the players to get them to get the score that they want. I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah, there was an effort to remove this.
You also said something else.
Go ahead, Sam.
When we open up with the first phase of gambling, which is the casinos, the natural movement is to the betting. And I think that makes sense because they open the gates. And you asked Gene the question, Republicans are just as corrupt as Democrats, and they're not as pristine as they used to be.
Well, Gene, the argument is if Pennsylvania has it, West Virginia has it, Ohio, the same argument with the casinos, and people are doing it anyway, with their bookies. Why not make it legal? Try to regulate it, maybe try to avoid some corruption, and also gain 10% of the profits in tax money.
And I understand all those arguments. It's just that if you even look at Ohio's lottery, we have 200,000 lottery addicts in the state of Ohio who each week bet 40% or more of their weekly income on lottery products. You don't hear enough about that. There's not enough work being done to help those folks, who most of them fall into the low resourced category. And once again, basically gambling is just a tax on people who are bad at math. Because the House is always going to get their take. They're always going to win. But I understand that, yes, we need to go ahead and do something. But with the amount of money sloshing around on this and the openness of this is where you need really strict controls on this. And much to my surprise, what I've been told is that there's just been too much money sloshing around on this.
And there was a deadline. They put a deadline on this. I think perhaps the advocates for this saw how long it took, in particular for the medical marijuana system to get out there and get going. Was that the reason why they put a January 1st, 2023 deadline on this?
Yeah, that's the latest that they can do it. The hope is that they will get it done before fall football season next year. But I think they wanted to give the Casino Control Commission time to make the rules. And Adam Miller, one of the representatives on this bill, said that he also thinks we're going to come back in about 7 or 8 months for a cleanup bill. Like once we get into the rulemaking process, he anticipates that we're probably going to have to come back and lawmakers are going to have to make some small changes to this legislation. And they wanted to give themselves time to do that.
Interesting. Okay, our next topic. Ohio hospitals are filling up with COVID patients. State health officials say more than 4,000 people in Ohio are hospitalized with COVID-19. That's the highest number of hospitalizations in about a year. The vast majority of COVID patients who end up in the hospital are unvaccinated. The push to mandate people get vaccinated seems to be softening. President Biden's vaccine mandate for larger companies is stalled in court. Some large employers in Central Ohio who once mandated vaccines for their employees are now putting off enforcement. Anna Staver, how concerned are health officials that hospitals are going to have to cut back on non-essential services if more and more folks get sick with COVID and have to go to the hospital?
Yeah, so Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff says that he's particularly concerned about the northern part of the state. That seems to be where these outbreaks are more intense and where we see lower vaccination rates. And because what he continues to say is that this is largely driven by unvaccinated Ohioans. So in the counties and the regions where we see the vaccination rates dip below ours, which is 58% of Ohioans have had their first dose. And so in the counties where you see that dipping lower, there are real concerns about those hospitals starting to fill to capacity.
Gene Krebs, you live out in the far western Ohio, counties with low vaccination rates. Omicron is out there. It's prompted some other folks to get vaccinated. Are attitudes changing at all out where you live as far as vaccinations go?
Very, very, very slowly. We've had a large number of conversations this week with a whole lot of my fellow rural Ohioans out through here. And they're very resistant to the idea of a vaccine. And they say, well, I'm not going to get one of those messenger RNA things. And I go, well, try the J&J shot. It's a classic, typical old-fashioned vaccine. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. And in talking to them and keep asking, well, why do you think that? Or tell me more. What has finally come out is that they do not feel they have enough control over their lives. They feel battered by the outsourcing of manufacturing. They feel battered by automation. They feel that their voices are not being heard. And they think this is the one place they can actually get some control and some agency.
Yeah. Sam Gresham, the Columbus mask mandate is still in effect. I think most people are wearing masks when you go to the grocery store, but there are quite a few that are not. I don't get the sense that the city's really enforcing it that much. Should they enforce it harder, the mask mandate? Sam Gresham. I think we may have lost Sam. Anna Staver, the governor has kind of deferred to his health officials in the briefings. He is we don't see any state regulations coming out anytime soon. I know New York is imposing a mask mandate. I don't see Ohio doing that. Do you?
No, and we've talked about this before. I think it's the makeup of the legislature, and the governor's been pretty clear about that they now have the authority to override any statewide health orders that he issues. And his, there's a large part of his party who does not believe in mandating masks, who has reservations about mandating vaccinations. And I think if the governor took steps in that direction, and he's been pretty explicit about it, DeWine has said, I would have mandated masks for schools if not for the state legislature.
Well, Mike, let me chime in on
Sure.
that. I think it's become ridiculous, this political cannibalism that the Republicans have of eating their own. And we're talking about a health issue here. 700,000 people in this country have died because of politics. Now, I'll say one more thing. I think it's unpatriotic not to be involved with trying to help your brothers and sisters survive under these circumstances. And we need to call them what they are, unpatriotic.
Do you think employees should be fired, Sam, if they don't get the vaccine? I know like Ohio Health said they're going to put off enforcement for a little while until the courts settle the Joe Biden's mandate.
Well, I've concluded that if we don't get control of it, this is Omicron now, we had something else, they're going to keep changing and develop, and we'll never get our hands on it. And now we have to take a booster because we're not sure. Somebody has to make people accountable. Somebody has to create the rules and make people follow them, or we're never going to get out of this.
Gene, that's not going to go over well among rural Ohioans. They're already opposed. They're already skeptical of the vaccine. They're certainly not going to like a government mandate.
Yeah, and I think we all need to take a step back and not put too many labels saying it's this group, it's that group. I recently shared a study. I believe it came out from the last think tank I worked for, Center for Community Solutions, looking at vaccine attitudes. Yes, rural Ohioans are very reluctant, non-college educated are very reluctant, but also African-American men are also very reluctant to get the vaccine. And I think we need to, once again, sit down with folks and go, well, why do you believe that? Tell me more. And just keep drilling down until you start to get to the reasons why. And then what can we do to begin to address it? And I think you need to look at the country of Portugal, which has a 93% vaccination rate.
How did they get
The question is why and how did they do that?
Yeah, well, I'll have to look at that. Our last topic. As of Friday afternoon, Columbus has seen a record 186 murders this year. And two of the latest victims have amplified calls to stop the violence. 6-year-old London Wanil and her 9-year-old brother Demetrius were shot to death, along with 22-year-old Charles Wade. Police say on Tuesday they were ambushed by two shooters who fired into a parked car in southeast Columbus. Police and city officials once again called for an end to the violence and for anyone with information to come forward. Sam Gresham, these have all been very, very sad stories. This one is just that much worse. What do you think is the solution? Is there a solution?
Mike, I have extensive experience with this. Being at the Urban League for 20 years, this is not the first time we've had these series of killings or shootings. What a lot of people are saying, they attribute a lot of it to the pandemic. People have been locked in. But I say that may be a portion of it. I think it's about a lot of other things that we don't really want to deal with. We don't want to deal with poverty, drugs, lack of personal responsibility, youth unemployment, inequities, education, marginalization, poor government, corrupt public officials, and corrupt cops. Nobody in Columbus wants to take about. We can't have all these drugs and guns coming through our community, and no politicians are getting their palms greased or all this dope. It's a lot of other things. I think there are solutions, but I'm not sure what we're applying now is the appropriate process.
Mm-hmm. Anna Staver, Governor DeWine this week announced how he's going to spend some federal money. It's going to be, I think, $250 million for police agencies and first responders. $175 million of that would go directly to communities, high crime communities, to try to prevent and solve crimes. So the governor he's not defunding the police. He's super funding the police.
Yeah, this is
Go ahead,
this is some of the federal. Oh, go ahead. So these are some of the federal dollars that have come in, the billions and billions of dollars that Ohio is getting from the CARES Act, from ARPA. And he decided that he wanted to give out some to local law enforcement, in part, for COVID protections and additional, masks and sanitizer and all the things that you need when you interact with people on a regular basis. But a large part of it is trying to handle some of the rise in violence. And I don't know. Sometimes you sort of wonder if throwing money at the problem solves it, but there are also a lot of smaller, even more rural communities that are really struggling with their budgets. Right. And I don't know that the money hurts.
Sam, more money for cops, but we need police officers to help patrol the streets, but is this the solution?
I don't think that solves the problem. I think the most effective programming solves the problem. And the most effective program does two things. It intensifies the police ability to put people in jail, or it gives people options. Yeah. That is, we'll get you a job, get you educated, and get you employed.
I want to get Gene Krebs to weigh in on this. Gene Krebs, what do you think in about 30 seconds? How do you take this? From your perspective, how do you solve this rising violent crime?
So I think that if you look at, you previously had a Toledo police officer named Angel Tucker on your program talking about a new approach to police community relations. And I think that's where it really begins, is once again, the police sitting down with community leaders and say, tell me how you think. Why do you think that? What is going on in your community? Begin to build those relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that if you go back and look at that tape you did with Officer Angel Tucker, I think you get some good insights.
Yeah, build trust to help solve some of these crimes, which is the trust is lacking right now. Let's get to our off-the-record final parting shots. Gene Krebs, you're up first.
So since we're talking about sports gambling, it means that Ohioans can now bet on Michigan, which got me thinking that this Ohio State University of Michigan rivalry is just now getting out of hand. And I've been monitoring social media this fall, and I've been appalled at the amount of pure hatred. We need to dial it back two whole notches, and that's going to require the leadership. And I'm calling upon the president of Ohio State to begin to initiate that process.
All right, Sam Gresham, your final thought.
I hope the mayor and his staff take the approach that's appropriate for this. If they don't, they are going to play politically in this community because they're going to waste a lot of money and nothing's going to change.
And Anna Staver, your final thought.
The governor's going to be signing a lot of bills next week, and one of the ones to watch for is another round of coronavirus money, but he's being asked to veto one section of it. It would put a pause on early childhood education standards, and we're all waiting to see, especially as we talk about the best ways to curb, long-term violence in our cities. It'll be interesting to see whether the governor holds off on raising child care standards.
My prediction, as the sports gambling industry, businesses start to ramp up in Ohio, they'll be looking for celebrity endorsers. And among those, top of the list, Pete Rose. Wouldn't it be great if he endorsed a gambling operation here in Ohio? That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. You can see each and every episode at our website. You can watch our show on your own time at WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.